Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how I created this epic background from scratch and how you can create one for yourself. So to get started, we're going to create some thumbnails. Thumbnail sketches are the most important part of this process, and I just started this way to get as many ideas out as possible. So here's my page of thumbnails that I've done for this illustration. I made sure I have my reference up of my character Avi and the character sheet that I've created for her, and also some reference for a Cape Fox. And so while I'm drawing these thumbnails, I'm just trying to get an idea of what I want to tell in the story, what I want the character to be doing. I know for a fact that I wanted some type of landscape, and so these first couple of thumbnails here aren't gonna cut it for me because these are just like character portraits, and that's not really what I was aiming for. And so I'm moving on, I'm adding more background elements, and sooner or later you can see I'm drawing trees and stuff like that here, right here. But I still wanted to get something a little bit more grand, a little bit more epic, and I'm experimenting with like the camera angles and all that, but I ended up going with something like this right here. This is my final thumbnail I created for this illustration, and it tells a story that I want to tell. I have Avi and the fox. They're just chilling out, relaxing, looking at the landscape. The point of thumbnails is to get all your rough ideas out in one go, one shot, so that you can get to the final destination quicker. If you sit down and do thumbnails, you can really just focus on your story and focus on creating small sketches to come up with ideas really fast. So that's what I did on this page here. As you create your story and draw your thumbnails, you also just want to make sure that the composition looks correct and you have the horizon line. For this, I use the rule of thirds to help me create the composition and help me focus on the character. Because it's a natural scene, I'm not using any perspective grid or perspective lines. I'm just trying to make the landscape seem as natural as possible. Now that you have your thumbnail sketches with your basic idea of how you want the illustrations to turn out, it's time to really break that sketch down into a foreground, middle ground, and a background. The foreground will be everything that's closest to the viewer or the camera that we're seeing this illustration through. This area is the most detailed part of my drawing and where I have my character, and so I really want, because my character is the focal point, I want there to be the most detail in this area. The middle ground is everything that is a little bit farther away from the camera, and I draw this less detailed. Then the background is everything that's farthest away from the viewer. You're not able to see any details really, and that's because of how far it is. If you go outside in real life and look out and maybe see like mountains or hills, you know there's trees on those hills, you know there's maybe rocks and mountains or rocks on the mountains, but you're not going to see those details. So you want to keep it as simple as possible, and that's what I did here. So talking about scale and size, the farther away you get from the camera, the less detail you need to draw. Because I'm drawing a large, like epic type of landscape, I want to make sure the scale is understandable. And so the trees in the middle ground and the background are not as big as the tree in the foreground where my character is. This helps the viewer get a sense of space in the environment, and it's the same for my character as well. But in this case, if I were to draw humans, they would be really tiny just because of how far the landscape spans. And so you're not really going to see any people out there, even though I draw roads and maybe little towns and stuff. My favorite part about this environment are the giant rock formations in the background. They really make the landscape look even more epic, have that fantastical feel to it, and I really enjoy the way they came out and the way they look. It just makes this place look a little bit more unique, and it's not just a regular grassland place. And so compared to the rocks I drew in the foreground, you can tell that they're really big, they're gigantic, and in real life we know how big rocks and boulders are compared to people, so it helps convey the scale of the giant rock formations by having human-sized rocks in the foreground with the character sitting next to them. So this is where I'm at with this illustration right now. It's not finished yet. It's going good, going well, but by using thumbnails to your advantage, foreground, midground, and background, you can really get something that looks epic, looks grand, and looks really cool. So make sure you pay attention to your thumbnails, foreground, middle ground, background, and make sure you're paying attention to the size and scale of those things.